If you have bad information, you take bad decisions.
Welcome to the Connected Shopfloor podcast, where we explore real stories and big ideas that keep the factory floor buzzing.
In today's episode, we are joined by Miguel Félix, production director at Prenso-Metal. We cover what it is like to use AI in his daily work as a production director, how he sees competition in the automotive industry coming from Asia, and why companies need to work on quality and speed at the same time. We also dive into his company journey, the transition to the second generation, how that change has been smooth, and how he's already thinking and preparing for the third generation to come in. It is a really fascinating episode. I hope you like it. I'm Marco Chan, and this is the Connected Shop Floor podcast. It's really interesting to have you here because you come from a management background, but yet you're leading a production department, which is something that you don't see every day because you go from the technical side to the management side and not so often the other way around. But now my question is, I know that you're using a chat AI on a daily basis. Is that basically cheating?
Yeah. Kind of is like have a cheaper personal assistant. I would say that a real person wouldn't give me the information as fast as I can get it now with the chat AI. It's a reality. The chat gives me fast information, true information. Of course, it's always space for improvement. So I would say that it's kind of cheating.
What kind of conversation do you normally have with the chat AI? What would be a normal kind of conversation?
I see the biggest stops of the production in understand what happened. I can look at that information and go and talk to the departments that cause me the long stops and try to fix small problems every day. In the end, I would say I have a big cake of problems solved.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And how is that different from the past? How is that different from going to an Excel and trying to understand, what are my main stoppages from last shift and so forth?
In the format that we used to have, the information of the production stops that happened would be filled by the worker in the machine on paper. That paper would need to like take a circuit in the end of the production. That paper would go to a little office. In that office, that paper would need to go to my management team, and it would need to be manually input into an Excel sheet. So the time between the production ends and the time that I have the information in order to analyze it, it would be between 1 to 2 weeks. I have lots of machines and lots of things to control. I need to have that information fast in order to make decisions.
If you have something that happened 2 weeks ago, how can you react to it?
For example, a long stop that happened yesterday on a machine, and I have lots of machines. If I go to a colleague of mine of the department that caused me that stop and I talk to him on the next day, the impact that it will have is completely different. If I go to him 2 weeks after that stop, he will say, "Oh, that's not true. Oh, that didn't happen," or "I don't remember," things like that, because it passed a lot of time between the stop and the acting itself. So when it's something really big, of course, that it's so obvious that we immediately react. But on the small things that are the things, like I said, if you fix small things every day, one small thing at a time, in the end, you will have a big cake of things already solved.
Miguel, let me try to understand. That's something that you solved by having real-time dashboards, real-time information available, right? So you changed from having these Excel files to information being collected directly from your machines. It's in real time. Now, what does this AI capabilities, where you have this chat AI, what does it help you next?
One of the big thing, it's not related with the chat AI, but more with the program software itself. It's the capability of catching the things as they are. In the past, what happened is that not saying that I don't trust on my team, but the thing is that they would manually insert the time that the stops of the machine's take. If they say there is 30 minutes, if they say there is 20 minutes for a stop, I have to believe it. I don't have any other kind of instrument to verify that stop was exactly 20, 30, 15 minutes. Right now, I have an IoT, as you know, that's how your system works. An IoT that is connected to the machine, and the amount of time that that machine stopped, it's correct. It's impossible to fake that time. I'm not saying that my workers would do it intentionally. I'm just saying that sometimes they had so much thing to do and they just would go by and just write that after, and they don't remember how much time it was that stop. So the information was
Not accurate, right? It was not accurate.
exactly. I can't and take decisions based on information like that. I need something that is true, that is reliable, in order to make good decisions, to supply real information. Like my CEO says, if you have bad information, you take bad decisions.
Yeah, it's like a little bit garbage in, garbage out, right? That's the whole
Yeah,
saying about
exactly.
data. But when you're interacting with the chat, now you have it available. You're able to ask questions as it goes. Why did it stop this line? Is it a recurring problem? And so forth. How is that different from navigating from dashboard to dashboard, from report to report?
It's a easier way to analyze things, a faster way to analyze things, is faster and helps me making faster decisions.
When you look into notifications and how the system can be more proactive, how do you see that happening?
It's so new right now and so good that I know it will, without a doubt, bring a lot of added value to the companies. Let's say an industry that is used to old methods, everything is really like from the past. And right now, with all of this, the added value that it will bring, it's immense.
When you look into this information and you're thinking, I need to act, what is still missing?
There are certain things with chat AI, the way that it responds, that are quite not what I need. Sometimes I need to be like around the answer that it gives me in order to try to reach what I need. It's going there, so but it's still not quite like what I like.
We touch a little bit on the market. And when we look into Portugal in general, or maybe the metal industry, which you're in, how do you see this AI adoption? And even maybe not going to AI, maybe a step behind is digital tools coming in. How do you see that evolving?
The biggest advantage itself, it would be the reduction of the human resources involved in order to have the information that right now these digital tools are giving me. I would say like the ProGrow software is giving me. In order to have that information, I needed to have like 2 or 3 employees spending all their day inputting data to working sheets, so that then I can analyze. So the amount of people, and we are a small company in this industry. We have not that much of machines.
How many do you actually have? How many workstations you have, and how many people working for you?
I would say, so working with ProGrow, we have about 15 working stations. So we are a stamping company, and our main products are mostly stamping parts. We have other process that we need in order to supply that part, like the washing stations to wash these stamping parts. We have deburring stations for that stamping parts. But like I said, we are a small company in this industry in Portugal. But you have huge companies like Gestamp. It's a big company. You have Auto Europa that also has stamping, and you have companies that have like 20, 40, 50 or more presses working at the same time, and you have a lot of data that you have to process and to put on these Excel sheets. And so you need a lot of people to input that data in that sheets, and you need reporters to analyze that information. And the thing is, with these digital tools, you don't need that much people for a fraction of the cost. And basically, that's an advantage in order for us to be more competitive in this market. When we are right now competing with markets like the Chinese market that are supplying for a portion of the cost of an European car. So all of that things are an advantage in order to be competitive in this industry.
Would love to unpack that part where you were talking about these big corporations. How do you see them? Are they already using this type of tools? Is it something that they already have digital tools, AI tools? When you visit other factories, even if it's not in within your industry, how do you see the market?
My industry, the metal industry, it's still in the past. I don't know, to be honest, how it is on other markets in European countries. Of course, there are some countries would be more advanced than us, or in others would maybe are a little bit more delayed than us. But in a general point of view, I would say that these kinds of tools have still a huge market where they can go, and the industry itself is still really young and don't know how to use these kind of tools and are not taking yet the advantage of the force that these digital tools can bring to us. I still think that the metal industry in Portugal are still not taking the advantage that they should.
What you're saying seems a little bit contradictory, which is you're talking about huge gains of people that it can now have more reliable data, faster decisions that would take you 2 weeks, less people involved in all of this paperwork. And then you tell me, but most of the companies are not implementing it. So what is the reason for that? Why do you think that companies don't say, well, this is obvious, we need to do it?
We know how the market is in Portugal. I think that it's like this. The people are here. So as long as they are here, we prefer to work with these people. And all of these digital tools are kind of a market that we still don't know. We don't want to take the risk. I know how it works. I don't want to take the risk. If it's working fine, let's just continue with it. I think that if the companies in general stay with that kind of mindset in Portugal, in Europe, right now competing with markets that are growing as fast as Chinese markets and other markets, will, to be honest, I don't know what the future will bring to this kind of companies.
I know that most of your clients are in the automotive industry. And we know nowadays that the European market is suffering a bit in this, which was our main market before. And now we see a lot of pressure coming from international competitors. And as you said, from Asia and China in particular. So what do you think now makes people still, go back to Europe and have our products and buy from us? Why are we still in the position we are in? And how can we get to the previous position we were in, which was, I think, a little bit more comfortable?
We can't compete with markets like the Asian market in terms of cheaper products because we will never be able to have the costs that these kinds of markets have. It is what it is, but to me, in my opinion, I think that we have to invest in good quality products and be more efficient with the costs of manufacturing, like reducing the working labor costs in implementing this kind of digital tools to try to reduce these working costs in the future. Right now that has positive and negative points, but in order for us to stay competitive and stay in the market, we can do it is just be cost efficiently and offer the best quality possible to the market. The Asian market is already doing that, but they still don't do it as good as the European market. And another, let's say, thing that we have to talk, there are certain aspects in the European market, for example, the bureaucracy that we have to comply with, that it's huge compared to the Asian market and the Asian brands, what they have to comply with.
So, if I understand, you're saying that we are still winning on quality,
Yeah.
which previously we said a lot, Europe has quality, Asia has speed, and now we are seeing a little bit of a change, right? But you still feel that we still own the quality part?
Yeah,
How long do
without
you
a
think we
doubt.
will own that? Is it something that we can still ride on into the sunset? Or should we be afraid that China is gaining on quality and is still keeping their speed? Is that a real threat or not?
I think that the Chinese quality in general it's improving a lot, but they still prefer, like you said, speed than quality. And I think that they continue with that kind of philosophy because we work with Chinese suppliers and we see that in the recent years their quality improved, but it still isn't quite as good as what we offer because in in my opinion I don't think that it will become as good as our product in the coming years. But without a doubt, is a risk in a long term.
Let's say for the argument's sake that we have 5 years. We have 5 years for them to be as good as we are in developing the product. They will be much faster. They will have less bureaucracy. How should we use these 5 years? Where should we invest in order not to lose this race?
I would go back to the question that you asked previously. We have to invest in trying to make our working costs more efficient. And that's the only way because we can't compete with the cost of the working labor of the Asian markets. It's impossible. For the non qualified work, for the qualified work, we will always have a more expensive work cost than the Asian market. But the Asian market, it's also on the long term, it's also increasing because that's how life it is, and we are human, and the Chinese are not different than us. So as life goes by, people want to have a better life quality and they want to have more money. The real estate in Europe is getting higher and higher, and in China it's the same thing, and they also are improving a lot in terms of technology. And right now you already have huge factories in China that just don't have one worker in the factory itself. It's all robots working and selecting things. So it's the only way for us to try to stay competitive with the Asian market. Like I said, again, is just to stay more cost efficient.
I understand that you're saying, we need to improve our efficiency in order to maintain the quality but be faster so that we can catch up with them. While they are catching up with quality, we're catching up with speed. Uh, but then you say also something that's very interesting. They will also start having problems that we are having here in terms of prices, wages, and so forth, because they're also evolving as a society. They will also ask for more. So that might also come into play. But now, circling back on what you said before, you said that our management is still, especially in your industry that you know better, you said they are a little bit risk averse. They don't like to change, they prefer to maintain the status quo. And that, of course, affects any change and any innovation that we are bringing in. Will we have time to do that change?
Our generation, the younger generation, will need to find a way because let's say the older generation is going to be here for a little bit more time. So we need to try to implement these tools and try to show to this older generation the added value that these tools are bringing, and that our competition is already using these tools and they're already using these tools better than us. So if we don't like step ahead and try to work with this, we will die. It's a reality. If the industry itself, not only the metal stamping industry, if we don't try to take a step ahead in risk and implementing this kind of tools on our companies, we'll stay back and we will stop being competitive. That's a reality.
Love to go back to that whole thing about the generations, which of course we know it's very important to have the previous generation, the new generation coming in. I think the mixture of both is crucial. I think that's happening a little bit on your organization. But before doing so, I would love to shake things up a little bit and go to here a short segment which we call press and guess. And the idea is simple. I'll just throw out a few questions, and the challenge is for you to answer them as short as you can. Is that okay?
Yeah, without a doubt.
So what do you prefer? We touched on this a little bit. What do you prefer to have, customer data or factory data?
Yeah, factory data, without a doubt.
Because you're a production guy, but you worked previously on the commercial side. Would you still say that if you're working on that area?
Yeah, because we need to be production efficient in order to give to the customer a good quality product for a competitive price. So I have to work from the inside to the out in order to give to the customer a more competitive and good quality product. So for me, production data.
And also, when you're selling a product and you're selling to customers, you agree on certain terms and dates and so forth. And if you, as a salesperson, know what's happening inside, if we're getting delayed or not, you can be more proactive and manage your client expectations when problems start to occur. Is that also a factor that also comes to play?
Yes. We have to adapt to what our customer asks for. We try to give them what they need and still try to gain something out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Next one: taking risks or playing it safe.
Now, taking risks without a doubt. Because for
Yeah.
me, for younger generation, we need
If you would say
right.
the other one, I would be really shocked with what we just said before. Okay,
Yeah,
market speed or production quality?
like we said earlier, without a doubt, product quality,
Innovation or tradition?
innovation.
We touched on most of this before. Ah, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, focus on short term wins or long term growth? Now, this is a hard one.
I would say right a little bit of both, more of long-term gains. So for me, in my perspective right now, and since this is a family-owned business, like we touched earlier, without a doubt, right now I'm working on long-term gains.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for playing along with us. It was super fun. But now let's turn the lights a little bit on you, and we will go back to that whole generational thing that we were talking about. From what I understand, and I might be wrong here, is you're on a path to becoming the next leader of the family business you're in. And I'm super curious to understand how is this change happening, and what is the upcoming generational change that you're experiencing?
So, like I said, this is a family-owned business, and since I was really small kid, I used to come to the factory with my dad, that is the CEO of the company. I used to come and see all the machines, and my dad molded me into liking this. I'm not saying that he kind of forced me to it, but it was really natural, I would say. I always like engineering, machines, cars, and all of that. It was not something forced, it was really kind of a natural thing. I start working really young here in the company, and kind of the mission was always on the academic side. I would try to study management and try to understand a little bit more about the financial part of things, and the technical information, the secret of the business, the know-how. It's always something that you learn working. It's like in a pastry shop. You can go to a school in order to learn how to make a cake, but your shop, your cake, your recipe, you will never learn that on the school. So it's something that you will always learn working with.
Do you remember that first work day that you had?
Yeah, without a doubt, it was really bad work. It's
What happened?
so it wasn't a very physical work itself, but it was really boring because it was so we do stamping metal parts. And when we do a production batch, we do, let's say, thousands and thousands of parts. And sometimes, unfortunately, in the process of production, the parts, they start to make a defect. And when that happened in the automotive industry, the quality requirements are really, really, really high. So you can't just send parts to a customer where you know that they're gonna be defective. So when that happens, what we need to do is that parts need to be seen one by one. And it's not a difficult job, but I would say that it's not physically difficult, but psychologically it's a really tough job because you have to be really concentrated for a long amount of time just trying to see always the same thing. So it's not a good job. It's a job that needs to be done, and honestly, and that's one area that I'm also in the future trying to evolve, trying to use AI cameras to do these kind of jobs, because right now unfortunately these kind of jobs, they need to be done and we need a lot of people to do these jobs. And right now we can already let's say substitute this working labor for cameras, and that's a reality. So that's another way to try to reduce these costs, to be efficient, and to comply with what our customer need.
I know that is an area that I also look a lot into, and it's very interesting. So you started by examining defects on different pieces, and
Yeah.
then you just went from what I understand, many different areas within your organization. So you were on maintenance, stamping presses, and so forth. And then you also work on commercial logistics, and now you're managing the production department by itself. So
Yeah.
I think for 3 or 4 years now, right?
Yeah, about that.
How are you able to do all of these changes?
I have to thank to my dad, because not only on this company but to my career, the way that he did the things. And I in the future, if I can, I would do that to my son too. When I was young, it wasn't, let's say, a pleasant thing. It wasn't easy because I was young. I just wanted to enjoy the college years, having fun and all of that. But he always insisted that I needed this. And right now I say, and I thank him a lot for the way that he did things, because he kind of forced me into work to become a better person, a better professional. And because of that, I gained a lot of working experience, working with people, being able to solve problems. For the age that I am right now, I think that I have a lot of capabilities because of that, because I started working on a really young age. And another thing that it was amazing was that I went to all the departments of the company. So I learned all the things that we do. And so all the difficulties and basically all the difficulties that the various departments of the company have. So their way of seeing things, because in companies there's always this thing that people complain with each other, that their job is always the hardest one, and things are not done because of this and that and that. And sometimes when you don't experience things, you don't know if what they're saying it's true or not. So if it's really difficult, if it really takes time to do that, if it doesn't take that much time. But when you work in that area and you know, okay, this job it takes like 1 or 2 hours max. Why? Because I also did that job. I know how much time that job takes. So you can't tell me that it's a 4, 5, 8 hour jobs when I know that it isn't. So, and that's one thing with my dad. He's a mechanical engineer, so his background is not on management, and we work in a really technical area, and he knows way more than I know, because so it was my professor. You always need to know not everything but a little bit about what you're dealing with in order to make decisions, in order to understand and to make real decisions.
Let me quickly thank today's sponsor, ProGrow. On this podcast, we often talk about the impact of data and AI on manufacturing sites, and something that comes up again and again is exactly the lack of data, and more importantly, the lack of clear, actionable insights. And that's exactly what ProGrow does. Trusted by more than 100 organizations from the food and beverage industry to the automotive, covering virtually any sector of the market, ProGrow helps manufacturers get real time insights from their machines. So visit progrow.ai and download the free app. Also, use the promo code POD1, PODONE, and you'll get a free IoT device today. Thank you. You talked quite a bit about your father, which is impressive, and how he was your professor. Now, when you look back and look at your father as a manager that has created this amazing company, what is the characteristic that you most value in him? And what have you learned more, or what is a particular thing that you remember that you learned from him?
The thing that I learned the most with my dad was resilience, not giving up on things, being stubborn, work, don't give up on things even when they are not working the way that we want, and just be on top of things. Not everything is easy in life, and that's how life is, but just don't give up, because on the long term, hard work always compensates.
But I can imagine it's not also easy to be the son of the founder and the CEO of the company. I can imagine that friends or colleagues might tease you by saying, "Oh, you're the son of the boss." Does it actually happen, or do people respect just the way things just came up to be?
It's a really sensitive kind of relation. So the only thing that for me, I have always to be able to answer no to the following question. So if there was somebody else that it wouldn't be me doing this job, that person would bring more added value that what I'm bringing right now. So for me, in I think that I don't see somebody else bringing as much as I'm bringing right now to the company. Of course, we could hire a person with lots and lots of more experience that I have, and without a doubt, that would cost a lot more, but that's how it is, being the son or not. I have a cost to the company. So the company with me spends a certain amount of money. So for what I bring to the company and for what I cost to the company, I don't think that there would be somebody else that would bring the added value that right now I'm bringing. And also, not only that, but I have a connection, a relation, an emotional relation with the company, with these workers, that anybody else would have. It's natural, because I grew with the company. I grew with these people, with these, I would say, co-workers. Most of them right now are friends of mine.
And in terms of the startup world and tech world, there's always this debate about is it possible to take the founder out and hire a CEO from outside that has experience, bring in, and that emotional side, which also related with the resilience you talked about before, is a key factor. And an example of that is, for instance, Starbucks. They hired this massive McKinsey guy to be the CEO and really didn't turn out okay. So he was great in the background, but it was very hard for him to be in the front line. So I completely understand that. But now looking at yourself, it's not easy to have that pressure. And I can imagine, for me, if I would take the business from my father and I had this great relationship with him, but it would be hard for me to do that, because I would be afraid of just not doing a proper job and getting everything wrong. Do you feel that? I hear a lot of confidence, but in your own moments, do you feel that pressure?
It's perfectly normal to feel that pressure. We have an image that we have to defend. I have to be able to show to the people that I'm not here just because I'm his son. I need to be in this position, and I need to bring value to the company. I need not to show, that's not the correct word, because I'm not here to show, I'm here to effectively bring value to the company. But in a certain of way, it's what I need to do also, is to show people that I'm here to work with them. We are here to take the company forward, and that I'm not only here because I'm his son and because I didn't have another option, because I have, and I could have took another career path and do other things, and be successful in other things, but I choose not to do that. I, we don't know the future. We don't know how the things are going, and if I will ever go on that path. Of course, that's always a possible scenario. But right now, I'm focusing on this company. I want the company to continue. It's a company that already has 30 years old. I want that to the company to have more 30 years. I have a great team of people working with me, and I believe that myself and with this team, I can continue with the good work that we are doing right now.
Yeah, but you said something that is very curious. I would love to challenge you on that. You talked about the next 30 years, which you will be a part of, and you're already 30 years old, right? So it will be eventually you'll get to your 60s. Do you see you doing what your father did to you, bringing in a son or a daughter inside the organization? Would you like that? How do you see that third generation coming in?
I have a son. He is 3 months old.
So already ready to go to the production line and start checking some parts.
No, I already brought him to the factory and walked in the shop floor with him. Of course, that right now
Wow.
he doesn't understand anything, but for an emotional part of it, I already did it, and my colleagues and my co-workers already knew him. So, like I said, it's a symbiosis of work with friendship. With it's a really big relation and a really big connection with the company that I don't want to give up. Of course, that not all days are good days, and not everything is beautiful. There are a lot of not so good things, but I would say, in an overall point of view, um, I would, without a doubt, like to for my son one day. Of course, we don't know how the markets will go. We don't know how things will go. But if things were going to be in the future, how they are right now, I will do to my son exactly what my dad did to me, because that molded me to be a better person, a working person, a more resilient person. And I'm not perfect, of course, not even near that, but I think that it turned out to be good. And if my son would go that path, I would be very proud. I would be very proud.
And I know something that you hear a lot is like working with family. It's tricky, right? And I work with my brothers, so I know how that is. And I think I'm as lucky as you are that everything turned out okay. And when it turns out okay, it's amazing, right? Because you have
Yeah.
the trust, you have that same passion. It's like you're almost multiplying yourself. And if you have different ways of thinking, even more interesting it is. But it can also go the other way around. So it can also not work that well. And if you do this in a broader scope, as you're saying, so you're working with these people for so many years, they know your son, they know your father, they know it's also tough to do some hard decisions when you have to restructure, you have to change things. How do you cope with that? How do you manage that?
That's the negative part of working like this. It's never easy when we have to make tough decisions. I would say someone from the outside that would come, they would look at things as numbers. And when we have a relationship like I have with the company, what I have with some colleagues and some co-workers, there's not an easy way to make some decisions, but they just need to be taken. It will be hard, and recently we have to decide some things, some paths that we had to took, and it was not easy. It's like we save one employee and just let the company fail, and another dozens of persons just stay without a job, or we have to let that person leave and save the other person's jobs. There's pros and cons in everything.
I know that, and that's why life is so hard, because I have always these two sides. Now, two more questions, if I may, and one of them is very. I would love to understand. I know it will be very hard for you to explain this, but one of the things that is very hard is this generational change from one generation to another one. People even say, the first generation builds, the second maintains, the third destroys, and all of that. So it's something that we tend on hearing. But then there are great successes of the next generation just building on top of the previous one, and massive organizations being created by that way. How do you advise in your case that it's going smoothly and well? And of course, we don't know the future, but as we are here standing today, it's going pretty well. How do you advise other companies in order to do this successfully? I even know, for instance, that private equities, they love this exactly at this point in time when there is a generational change, or when there's one that is not there. It's a great time to buy the company because you will buy on in good conditions. So in order to maintain this legacy, this family business, what do you think are the key factors that, at least in your case, have contributed a lot to this success?
In our particular case, it was, I would say, the generational exchange from my father to me. It was really natural. I know that sometimes it doesn't happen with other companies, and that's kind. I would say that my father, I wouldn't say that he had luck, because I like what the company do and I like to maintain the company and continue with the company. But and it's perfectly normal. In some companies, sometimes the people that should uh, continue with the company, the sons or the daughters, sometimes they just don't want to do it, and that's how it is. Unfortunately, we can't obligate people to take things.
I think that's a great point because you said it was very natural with your father. Imagine that that will not be with your son. Imagine that your son will want to do something completely different. He will like to be a doctor and so forth. In which way can you force that to happen, or not?
No, no, I would never force something like that to my son. Like I said, with me, I just had a natural taste for what we do in here. But if my son don't want to continue with the company, of course that I will show him what we do. But I will never, in a way, try to obligate him to continue with the company. It's a thing that with time I will understand if he wants to do it. And if he wants to do it, of course I will support him in all the way that I can, in order for him to have the most amount of information and experience to continue with the company. But if it isn't something that is a reality, what I would like to happen is for the company to continue, and the persons that would buy the company, I would like for them to continue with the company, to continue the philosophy and what we do, to continue the legacy, basically.
If I have understand this correctly, what I think in your case worked very well was the natural way that it happened, and also you being involved from so early on, and the way your father just including you part of the team from day one, and that just eventually got you to be in a good position to start, getting more responsibilities. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, basically. For me, that work, he did a great job with me. Fortunately, everything went quite good, and it went all right. In a perfect world, that it would work like that with my son also. But like I said, I will never, in a way, try to obligate him to continue with the company.
Now, last question, I promise. If you could go back on that first period where you were working on the production line, the job you so much loved, and just look into the parts and understanding what the defects are, if you could go back to that young kid, what advice would you give him?
When I finished my academical financial degree, I should have, after that, take a kind of engineering degree or something like that. Of course, that with my work experience, I have learned a lot, but I feel that there are some holes on my knowledge, specifically on my engineering knowledge, that I would like to learn and to see, because engineering is a huge world, a very interesting world. And in spite of knowing a lot, I know that I can learn more, and I would like to learn more. I haven't done it yet, but I think that I'm still young, and I think that one day I'll just go crazy and I'll just go in an engineering school.
Miguel, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing so much of your journey. Thank you for allowing us to be part of that journey.
Also, for me, without a doubt, I hope that our relation continues for a lot of time because, like I said, ProGrow is bringing a lot to our company. I think that you bring a lot of value to the industry, and the only way I think this relationship going is up and up and up and up and up and up, without a doubt.
That's great to hear, man. That's the best way to finish this up. Thank you very much.
Join our connected shop floor communities on LinkedIn and Reddit. And subscribe our channels.